Good morning, I'm Mark Nicholls, and welcome to the first of what I hope will be a number of videos where I talk about some guiding principles that I believe in when it comes to information security. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a drink, and let's get started on what I hope will be a journey to helping you improve information security for your organisation. I wanted to start by talking about reporting structures when it comes to information security. This is something that comes up time and time again, and a quick search on LinkedIn, you will find many people discussing what's the best reporting structure for an information security leader. Well, I think first of all, we need to understand, are we talking about the CISO, or are we talking about the head of information security? Now, for any organisation, and a lot of this does depend on the size of the organisation and the type of information it's dealing with, you may not actually have a CISO. I'd expect you to probably have a head of information security, because I see this as a balanced role. It's a role that's probably 50-50 strategic and operational, whereas in my opinion, a true CISO is purely strategic. So underneath that CISO, there would probably be a head of information security, maybe a head of security operations, and a number of other security staff. Typically, you will find CISOs in very large organizations, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to the reporting for a CISO, I'd expect the CISO to be certainly at the top table, and they would be there because, in my opinion, security needs to have the buy-in of all the C-suite to be effective across the organisation. One thing we need to probably get away from is that security is purely an IT issue. Of course, IT is a very important part. Without the correct technical controls, we can't ensure a good level of information security. However, security is important for all areas of the business. It is an enterprise capability, and one of the key areas is probably around business continuity and disaster recovery. And we also mustn't forget about physical information. It's all well and good having the best antivirus software and the best firewalls, great encryption. But if you leave the doors to your office wide open so people can come in and take that confidential file off of that desk, there is no point having all these great controls. So when it comes down to reporting lines, I think the one to concentrate on is probably the head of information security. And certainly if that's the only leadership role you've got in your business when it comes to security, people say it shouldn't report to the IT director, CIO, needs to report to maybe chief risk officer, maybe the CEO, maybe legal. I think in some respects, in the right organisation with the right maturity level, it shouldn't actually matter. It comes down to whoever is in that role and their leadership qualities. If they can guarantee good engagement across the enterprise and across the business, they should be able to get good traction when it comes to security. However, there is a caveat around that. It depends where operational delivery and service delivery come in. Sometimes in some organisations where the head of InfoSec reports to an IT director, the IT director is torn between ensuring good security and ensuring good service delivery. And unfortunately, in some organisations, service delivery will always win because that is the important factor. But we as security leaders need to remember, A, from CIA, availability. This is just as important as confidentiality and integrity. It's all well and good making sure that all that information is locked away. But if you don't make it available to the right people at the right time, the business won't survive. And at the end of the day, we've got to remember, no business, no security leader. I think when you're new to an organisation, the first thing as a security leader you need to do is understand the business that you're working in. I remember talking to Paul Watts, who's now the CISO of Kantar, but was previously CISO of Domino's. He started at Domino's and he was put on to pizza training school, where he learned how to make pizzas. Now, of course, Domino's, their core business function is creating and selling pizzas, whether that's in their shops or more common nowadays via their mobile app. By doing that and understanding what goes on in that organisation and what's important, it enabled Paul to put in place the correct security controls that meant that Domino's continued to be one of the most successful pizza organisations, but also one of the most secure organisations out there. So I think it doesn't matter whether you're working in pizza business, a manufacturing plant, insurance company, a bank, a university, a housing developer, you need to get out there and understand it. Of course, there are going to be some common risks across all different organisations, typically in, say, the corporate services area, so your HR teams, your finance teams, etc. But how you put controls around information, say, in a manufacturing plant, is probably going to be completely different to the controls that you're going to put in place around information in, say, an insurance broker. If you do not get out there and understand what's going on and what the core functions are, it's going to be very, very hard to build engagement with your stakeholders and, importantly, trust that you're putting controls in there that enable the business and don't block the business. For me, when we talk about the people, process, technology in terms of information security, I think people is probably one of the most important areas, and that brings up education and awareness. Time and time again, we talk about that mandated e-learning module that everyone must complete and get at least 80% for a purely tick box exercise. Yes, of course, it's one of the key questions the ICO asks once you have a breach. What training and education have you given your users? Please give us some records to show that you've done this. And it's very easy to print off a form from your learning management system that shows that you've got compliance across this area. But does that really change culture? Does it really change behaviours? No. So for me, you need to get out on the ground. And I think that the first thing to do is understand the business, because the controls and the education you want to put in place for one area of the business, say HR, are going to be completely different to the other areas of the business. Let's say you're a manufacturing plant. What controls and education do you need to ensure that the people down on the shop floor who are building your products understand information security? The way they learn is probably going to be different. Are they going to have access to a computer to do your mandated e-learning? Maybe not. So I think the approach I'd like to take when it comes to education and awareness is security workshops. And these have been very successful in some of my past organisations, typically where we talk about security in general and primarily at home. I'm a strong believer if you're secure in your home life, you'll naturally bring those behaviours into the workplace and ensure security within the workplace. Let's be honest, you wouldn't leave your windows and your doors wide open at home so anyone can walk in and steal your valuables or your TV or your jewellery. So why would you do things like that in the office place? I'd like to get to the point where security is like health and safety, and it's just become second nature. Now, in terms of trying to get out there, a lot of the organisations I've worked for have had very small security teams in terms of ratio against staff. My last organisation, the team was roughly about 6 people, 3,500 staff. It doesn't matter how dedicated you are, you're not going to get out there and see every member of staff face to face. So what we tended to do was look for security champions. These are typically people throughout the business who have good networking circles within the organisation and can get our security message across. This isn't their primary job function. They could be PAs, they could be team leaders, they could be business unit managers. The key point here is know how to talk to people in their area. They understand the risks in their areas, and they've got a passion for security and wanting to do the right thing. We found that to be very, very successful, and it certainly was more efficient than trying to get the team out in front of everyone. So that brings me to the end of this first video. Thank you for watching. Please do leave some comments below if you'd like to continue the discussion on anything that I've mentioned in this video, or maybe you've got some ideas on some topics you'd like me to cover in a future video. Thanks again for watching. Please do stay safe and well.